Carol, thank you so much for coming and speaking at Sustainable Brands. Would love to start by asking you how you would define what a sustainable brand is.
All right, so first, I don't like the term sustainability. I talk about responsible brands. And the reason is that sustainability is either about doing less bad or doing good, both to me of which are anthropocentric. They're about humans. When I talk about regeneration, I'm talking about finding the essence of something and making it alive and healthy. So I want responsible brands because then they think about their customer and the lives of their customer. They think about the co-creators, which includes all their suppliers, the earth, not the earth, earth, just give her a name, and community and shareholders. And so I find sustainability fragmenting. So if you'll let me describe what I mean by responsible organization, it's where you start with a whole idea and you permeate the company, which embeds global imperatives in it.
That makes perfect sense. So certainly there are plenty of obstacles and challenges that brands face in realizing a responsible company and a new economy that is more responsible overall. What are those primary challenges that you see?
Oh my, primary, there's so many. I guess the major one I think is that they do too much counting and not enough caring. So let me explain what I mean by that. When a brand is doing purely or primarily market research, consumer research, and then usually one company does that, it gives it to the company who's going to use it, they translate it and give it off to people who are going to work with it, and there's no caring connection still to the people who they're trying to understand. So when I'm working with companies, I talk with them about imaging and standing in the shoes in their mind, no matter where you are, whether it's a marketing person, an operating person, whether it's someone who is an administrative person at a company, that all of you should be standing with your mind outside where you can build caring. You eventually can count some things, but I'm trying to get people to count the success of the customer, which could be a distributor, could be someone who actually uses the product and bought it. But the real thing is they've got the restraint and challenge is we've got way too much counting going on, which has destroyed the ability of everybody in the company to care.
Yeah, so what examples have you seen of that transition from counting to caring where you think it's actually made a pretty interesting difference?
Well, I mean, that's why I write books, because I tell people stories. My books are usually stories. And so one example in DuPont is instead of them counting yarn and the waste of what went into airbags, we actually went out and created teams in the airbag manufacturers who are not DuPont, they're downstream, a converter of something. And we created people who were champions, and everyone inside the DuPont fiber team and string team was responsible for the success of the distributor. They were on site all the time, they were tracking them, and they counted what they counted. They didn't count waste and all the stuff that the DuPont counted, they counted what the converter counted. Then we went out into the automobile makers and we brought together the 5 major automobile makers and talked to them about what it means to have an automobile that has airbags kill a small child or a small woman, and really got that story out. They were not talking about that. They were being so defensive. We said, so what is it that's causing that? And we finally realized that it was 7 separate parts in the dashboard which didn't work together. And it was what was causing it to release when it shouldn't. Now we've got people caring, and we said, all right, let's go all the way back upstream, and how can DuPont work on that with the converter, with the automobile maker? That takes you into counting what matters, right, and what we want to care about.
Thanks for that story. My last question for you is, you've come out with a book, The Responsible Entrepreneur. What's the primary message that you're delivering in that, and what's the impact that you hope your book will actually achieve with its message?
Well, first, my book is Stories of Impact. I wrote it because people were using entrepreneurship, especially social entrepreneurship, in a very small way. And I saw people creating like product alternatives that didn't really change the course of history. So my intention in writing this book was to give 15 examples, and these are my clients, my colleagues, and my students, so I know them well. They're not abstract interviews, of people who are literally changing the course of history with a small business. Now I start with some icons to show how Google did it and Apple did it, because I worked with them. I work with Google now, and I did work with Apple, so I know enough about them. And then Branson, who I've never worked with, and Oprah, who I never have but would love to. But then I took it into 15 ordinary people like you and me who created a business and actually used it to change the course of history. the book is about, and its intention is to help people understand their life can matter in a huge way with a focused, small endeavor. If you know how to think about it right, and so I showed them how to think about it, gave them the stories, said here's how they did it, and I defined it in terms of archetypes so that you could see that you literally have to put on like a Batman cape, or you're putting on a warrior kind of, because if you don't do that, you think small and you think like Carol thinks. You don't think like the bigger possibility it could be. I have a new book in the fall called The Responsible Human, and my other one, The Responsible Business, so you can tell I got a franchise here, right? Yeah. Is all about really building people being able to see how much effect they do have in the world, but could have that's even more impactful if they just decided they wanted to take that on.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good luck.